We're here in the studio with a very good friend of mine, the wonderful Deb Goodrich here in the studio, local historian, show host, you name it. She's got all kinds of hats, but we're going to talk about the Charles Curtis documentary that you were talking about. This was a while back you came on the show to talk about this. It was a crowdsourced or crowd-funded kind of a movie, and we've got a premiere coming up for this thing now, right?
We had started out with the idea of crowdsourcing and crowdfunding, and we didn't raise very much money. So I went to Merle Riedel at the Kansas Humanities Council.
He's a great guy.
He's a great guy, and we decided to come up. We came up with a plan of attack, and we broke it down into short documentaries. So Heather Newell with Trinity Marketing and Ag AM that I work with, who was doing the filming for the documentary. We actually were on a bus trip, an ag trip, and on the bus we outlined 4 to 5 segments, 4 to 5 15-minute pieces. So we got Kansas Humanities through the Shawnee County Historical Society. So we went back to our buddies at the Shawnee County Historical Society, very appropriately, and they applied for the grant, and it was Kansas Humanities Council came through for us. So we are looking at a premiere on January 24th at the Jayhawk Theatre. Now, I have to tell you, when we applied for the grant and got it, we're all like, oh crap, because we've got a really short time to get it done. But that's what I love about working with Heather, and we've got a wonderful camera guy, Michael Gehring, who is a recent Washburn grad, and he's really great to work with. And Carla Jennings there in the office, who's been in media forever, and Kelly Huddleston. And these people just get stuff done. It's a great crew to work with. So this first piece will be about Charles Curtis's early years, and essentially it's his growing up in Topeka and Council Grove and having to choose between being white or Indian. So it's a really profound, short little piece. And Merle likes the idea of the short documentaries because they facilitate discussion. It's easy to show that to a group, at the library or school or something, and have time to talk about the issues. And Humanities Council really likes to promote that interaction and discussion, that whole thought process. So I think it's a win-win. I'm real excited about it.
Absolutely. So I know we talked a little bit about this before, why the importance of making, a tribute to Charles Curtis. Let's, for people who didn't catch that, let's go back and talk about that for a second.
The more I research him, the more profound I think I realize his role in America was. He represents so many things. He comes of age at a time when America is pushing westward. He's right in the middle of that westward expansion. His background as French and Indian and white puts his heart right in the center of that. And he's born in 1860, so during the territorial period in North Topeka. His folks operated the ferry there, Papin's Landing, that went over to Ward Meade Park. So again, Shawnee County Historical Society is such a great fit because Curtis is personally connected to so many big pieces of our story. And then he goes to live with his grandmother in Council Grove. His mother dies when he's small. His dad fights in the Civil War. He is a Jayhawker. He is actually worse than a Jayhawker. He's a redleg. And they're like the special forces of the Jayhawkers. So they're some really bad guys. He is actually court-martialed at the end of the war for war crimes and sentenced to hard labor, gets a pardon, and then goes fight in the Indian Wars. You can't make him up. You just cannot make him up.
He really does kind of have that.
His name was Orrin Curtis, but they called him Captain Jack. So just think Captain Jack Sparrow. That's without the redeeming qualities, and you've got Curtis's dad, pretty much. And then Curtis, he's elected county attorney. He's just a young man. He's elected county attorney. He goes to work enforcing the prohibition laws Nobody believed he would because he's Captain Jack's kid. Nobody drinks more than Captain Jack. No way his kid's going to enforce prohibition, and by golly, he does. And guess who is the prosecuting witness? Why, it's Deputy Jack over there. Captain Jack is now a deputy, turning in all of his buddies. I mean, it's just...
Is there anything in the process of putting this together that you learned that you didn't know before?
Oh, gosh, yes. So much. So much.
The highlight.
One of the things, Curtis promoted women's rights. He campaigned for women's suffrage. He and Dan Anthony actually introduced the bill, the first bill granting women's suffrage. I knew that, but I didn't know how he really practiced it. And his half-sister, Dolly, that he sort of raised after his dad, a whole other situation with his dad, his younger sister, she is working for Charlie in his campaigns. She is campaigning for him before women have the right to vote. She is taking the stage with people like Dan Anthony and other party stalwarts around the state, and she's taking the stage to campaign for her brother. It was unheard of. There was just not another woman doing that.
Very strong character.
Very strong character. And he gives her these opportunities and this responsibility, and it's just incredible. And she makes national headlines. She's in the papers when he becomes congressman. And then when he is a U.S. senator, he's a sitting congressman when he becomes senator. So he sends his sister and then another friend, I think, who was an attorney, to Washington to wrap up his congressional business. So she has her assignment in Washington. And again, this is 1907, 1908. Women don't have the right to vote.
Yeah.
And she's in there doing the work.
Well, people can find out plenty more about this by checking out the documentary at Jayhawk Theatre. That's January 24th. Check it out, folks.